Hello, welcome. Welcome to the first episode of Horizon Talks number one. This is the first episode recorded ever in the world. This is the first episode for me, and this is going to be the first episode for whoever is tuning in out there in this world full of 8 billion people. So, whoever finds this video, I really appreciate you tuning in and listening. If you find anything, even the slightest tiny bit thing useful, that you could get it out of this video, that would absolutely mean the world to not only me, but everything that surrounds the ideas of what I'm going to try to break down. So I try to think about it, and I'm like, well, what do I want to sit down and talk about, because we all have our own times. We all have our own mind. We can think freely, speak freely. But it's like, well, when you sit down and you want someone to try to understand of where you're coming from, it takes a bit more than just the crappy old small talk. It's not gonna fulfill the expectations of laying the groundworks of your mind or how you think of things. So I thought it'd be quite fun and a good pleasure to sit down, have a normal conversation, and just kind of discuss some things that have been on my mind, maybe some ideas, maybe really whatever it is. So I was trying to think of what do I want to do for the first episode. What do I want to talk about? There's so many things to talk about, and I realized, okay, well, you know what? I've got this journal. And I've had this journal I started it, let's see, November 16th, 2018. So at this time, I was 18 years old. And I've done it over the months, just over the months. And so I figured, why not just start by taking one of the segments out to see where my life was back in 2018, read it off a little bit, paraphrase it, and then try to break it down to my knowledge that I know now, and maybe try to understand a bigger meaning of what I was feeling, what I was thinking, and my actions back in 2018 that I may have not realized then. So this might be a fun little time travel thing, and maybe just for the first episode, we could in the future maybe we'll do part of it this way and then break other things down. But I figured this would not be a bad start because I kind of think about it, and I don't know how many people personally do journals. I mean, I think it's a beautiful thing because now I know how I was feeling and how I was thinking and what was going on in my life on that day, and it's right here in paper. It's a very healthy thing, and I can go reflect on it, and laugh at it, at the true disgusting thoughts that I had back then, and I think it's quite important. So whether you do journaling or not, I mean, I would definitely recommend it. I haven't done it in a good 5 months, so I'm gonna have to write a good 4-page catch up there or something and try to catch up on it. But I like to just break some things down and try to see what we can get out of it. And I haven't even read it out loud quite yet, but I try to just break down some of the ideas that maybe I thought at the time, and hopefully it can translate into some of your lives too. If any of that occurs, then that would mean the world to me. That would be amazing. I mean, like-minded people or people that you can relate to definitely is needed in this world of change, in this world of deceit and evil or whatever. But there's also a lot of good here too, that and being able to be relative to someone else is quite important to me. So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna try to break something down, and I'd like to see what we can do. So let's see here. We got segment 4 back in December 17th, 2018. So the first sentence of this journal entry is, it says the first semester of college is over. This is my freshman year. It just ended. And it goes on to say, it was great. And it was something I was looking for. Yet the future does hold greatness. So even in the first two sentences, that's a great structure I'd like to break down personally. And I love to try to share my own personal experiences and see if it correlate to a bigger idea here. So kind of a rundown. Throughout high school, things were quite foggy. I mean, we don't know anything growing up. We don't know anything. I mean, I'm 20 years old now. I still probably don't know too much, but but I've learned quite a damn much more than I did back in grade school. And so the thing was I was so excited to get out of public schooling and to get out of the toxic environment that I was kind of set in. And it was a blessing that I got put into a nice school. It was a blessing that I got put into a safe school. I'm very blessed and thankful for it. Although the toxic environment definitely took a toll psychologically that I was too young to even understand at the time. Just kind of rode with the wave. And it kind of had a loss of hope for quite a while in my life because I didn't know, high school's over. Now what are you going to do? If you go to college, what's your major? Like, what are you going to do? I mean, this kid was so lost within me, and there was quite a lack of hope in that. So I think there's many factors that go into that feeling, just the lack of hope. I mean, so many different factors, but I think a huge one that I was concentrated on were the people you surrounded yourself with. And that was definitely the one that I was eligible to be conscious about at the time. So I definitely thought, I can't wait to go to college and try to meet new people, a new start, a new way of expressing myself, a new me, literally. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels that way. I'm sure there's a lot more people out there, that's it's an exciting experience, an exciting new start kind of thing. So that's where I was leading into college. I could not wait to do that. That was going to be the peak of my existence, literally. A new start, everything. Everything's uphill from there. But I wasn't consciously thinking about the future after that. And so it makes me so happy that I wrote down that the future holds greatness. I mean, I wasn't thinking about that every single day. I was quite a bit in the moment, to be honest, and I'm not sure, whether it's a good or bad thing. It's just how it laid out at that time. And after that first semester of college, things started to change. I mean, things started to grow. Things started to not necessarily come together in front of my eyes, but it's kind of a transition period in my life. I think there were a lot of changes that were going to happen, and I knew were going to happen, but I didn't have a time frame. I didn't know, well, when am I going to know my major? When am I going to go work harder on my passions? What are my passions? What people do I want to work in so said profession? There are so many question marks. Growing up, it's quite stressful, to be honest. Quite stressful for an 18-year-old, for a kid still, or teenager, whatever. Quite stressful. It's a lot to pick up on, and I had quite a bit of question marks there. I wasn't too sure. Although I am so blessed, I didn't get stuck into a cycle of depression or a cycle of very, very, very psychological toll taking experiences, I think it was kind of a haze in a sense of um, I was moving out of the mindset of worry about now and not later, kind of thing. And that's a whole idea in itself. I'd like to break that down, because throughout my life, I mean, if anyone goes through trauma or terror and pain and suffering through their life, they know um, that yes, we should be worrying about right now, making sure we're okay right now, making sure you're financially well right now, making sure your well-being is good right now, making sure the people you're surrounding yourself are okay right now, and your family and the environment, and that your home is in order in this current state of moment. But at the same time, I mean, if you have no plan for the future, then the future, if you try to imagine it and you can't even imagine it, then you're just going to ride a wave that you don't even know where it's going to lead to. I mean, having at least searching for answers, I mean, is a part of the life, and that's quite important. But if you have the mindset of living totally in the moment and not even consciously trying to find answers, then that's going to bring a result that I don't know if I want to be a part of, you know. So, and being young, it's quite difficult to just know the balance between in the moment and the future. I mean, I battled this for years and I still am. I think I don't, I'm sure many other people do. Where's the balance of it? What can we do in the moment that will eventually lead to um, a better future? So I could break that down more at some point, but I mean that idea alone for a young guy or young woman, it could be quite stressful, and it can be a quite darn hard experience to live through a transition of life, but also it's a beauty of life because I mean if you had all the darn puzzle pieces, I'm not sure then what? What do you do? I mean, when you finish the puzzle, you know, I'm not sure what else there is to do. I mean, you could spend the rest of your life staring at the puzzle, but you're gonna get quite bored of it. I'm guessing. So, that's a great idea in itself. But that's what I was fighting. In that first semester of college, I definitely got tested quite a bit with that idea of trying to answer some of those questions for myself. And again, I went to college undecided. So the first year and a half I was there, I was undecided. But, you know, uh, this is just the first semester. So the first semester I wasn't too worried about it. It was gen eds. Academically, did the best that I ever have in my life. So it was quite satisfying. It was quite fulfilling, and things in the moment were going quite well. Met new friends, had a good environment, had a good time. Things at home were good. Everything, most of the things were well, except for the unanswered questions that I wasn't consciously searching to answer. And that was gonna bite me in the butt later. So, um, I did write down the next thing it says is that the unique feelings and thoughts that I get is so different along with my outlook on life. And that's it. I mean it's quite vague. It's very, very vague. But there's a lot of information there. I mean, the unique feelings and thoughts that I get is so different along with my outlook on life. And this goes to show, I mean, Everybody through grade school has different experiences, different lives. I wasn't the guy throwing the footballs down the field, you know. I wasn't the guy also in the spelling bee. I wasn't the guy playing the trumpet. I mean, I ditched all that going into high school. Ditched all of it behind me. I left everything behind, and I wasn't that guy. I can only speak for what I did, and it was quite hazy, you know, so I didn't. These thoughts now, after the first semester of college, were brand new. I mean, within that first 6 months, I found a guitar, you know. That was the first true thing I actually found that I could feel like myself, like acceptance, you know. I felt like I had a purpose, a purpose, and I felt acceptance to myself, and I could keep that to myself. I could suck at home playing, and nobody else would have to see it. I wouldn't have to get judged. I wouldn't have to worry. I wouldn't have to doubt necessarily, and none of those things were there. It was kind of like this was my finally a breaking point where I could find myself a little bit. And that was big. That was huge. I mean, that's what relatively changed my entire life. Was the smallest little thing that maybe we don't understand at that moment, but maybe down the road we'll say, well, damn, I'm glad I had that thought to go home and pick up my mom's guitar, you know? And I'm quite thankful for it to this day. So that was the first time I started having unique feelings and thoughts and actually feeling like individuality, if that makes sense. And grade school was more tied up as a group, tied up like a knit tight group. So I wasn't as individualistic, you know. It was kind of running with a group, and that's all not so healthy because it's all in the moment and you're not thinking about the future. So, you know, if you keep living your life that way, I don't want to know the answer to that one. So it was all new to me. These unique feelings of euphoria, laying in bed and just feeling like dopamine was just being released on me from doing things that actually felt fulfilling to me, and not having to worry about what the outside world, the other 7 billion people were doing out there. Whatever the exact number is, I didn't have to worry about that. And you could say that it was an escape from reality, but I don't think that's a healthy way of thinking about it. I would rather take it on as reconstructing my reality. I mean, you got to think about if I lived in that same reality and went down that darn path, again, I don't want to know the answer of it. But if I could finally take a step back and take some time to, even if I wasn't consciously reconstructing it, that's what was happening. My reality in the reality of the world was being reconstructed by the smallest things that I wouldn't have known to do beforehand. So these feelings were all new. I mean, again, just being in your room listening to a whole new genre of music, that's what changed my life as well. Was I listened to tons of hip hop music. And there's no bad feelings or negative emotion for me pushing that on to the hip hop music. But I personally could not relate to any of it. I listened to it so I could bump my subs in my trunk so that other people would notice it. I mean, it wasn't for me. It wasn't benefiting me. It was so much self-consciousness fogged up in my head, or, you know, it just wasn't me. So So finally, doing something that did. I mean, it changed everything. And that's when it goes to say the second part of the sentence says it says along with my outlook on life, because by the end of the first semester of college, my whole outlook on life completely changed. And it's not just because I went to college. Going to college was a huge thing. It was a huge opportunity. It was an absolute huge opportunity to meet new friends. But I mean, how do I know that everything from my friend? I just wanted more new people in my life, and have a new start to be able to portray the new reconstruction of the reality. So that was quite important, and it also made me realize, even meeting new people, that my outlook on life was also being altered and changed as I grew. And I think there was a little more work than I knew what was going on. There was a whole lot more going on than I even knew at the time. And I think maybe even more than the people around me knew what was going on. And maybe same for their lives too, but I can only speak for myself. So again, a detrimental part of that was after picking up a guitar and changing the genre of music changed everything. Again, I couldn't directly relate to hip hop music. I mean, probably 90, I can't even put a percentage out there of how much I can relate to it. A lot more I can't relate to than what I could, that's for sure. That's a damn fact. A whole lot more I could not relate to. I couldn't relate to most of it. I just liked how it sounded. My mom always said, take in the message, there's a message being portrayed there, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, blowing over my shoulder. I don't know better. Well, right when I actually started writing a song for the first time, I actually started consciously listening to lyrics and noticing what I was putting into myself and how I couldn't relate to a single darn thing about it. I said, I gotta change this, man. I mean, that's all I knew was that hip hop music for the most part. I mean, that's all the people listen to is pop music, and that's what's popular, and it still is. But like, I had to change it, and just finding a whole new genre of music, more alternative or anything else. I mean, just anything but the things I couldn't relate to at all. Once I could find something I could relate to, that's when I could lay in bed at night quite peacefully, listen to some real music I could relate to, knowing that there's a sense of security, because there are other people that think my way, or have I could more can relate to out there, and it's not just a battle that I'm fighting. And that's quite important as a young guy to know that there's other people out there that are going through things just like you, and also have viewpoints maybe close to yours as well, and people that can relate to you more, and I mean, it's good to feel different, but it's also good to know that the way that you feel isn't so bad, because there's other people succeeding in that doing, being relative. So that was quite reassuring. So that was one of the first times I felt unique feelings, and had unique thoughts, more creative thoughts, and once individuality became more of a reality in my life, and more actually being conscientious about it, that's when a boost and spark of creativity started to come around, and it felt quite good. So all those feelings and thoughts would come in. It was quite a bit much for me to handle, to be honest. I mean, it was out of my realm of expertise to be able to execute the things that I was thinking and wanting to do. But it also gave me a whole lot of dreams. It gave me an entire template for ways and things to do and how to do it. I didn't necessarily know how to do it, and I still don't necessarily, because a lot of things are very, very sophisticated, and we got to start small and aim low. So that was huge, man. It was absolutely huge. Just creating a template of for creativity was completely new. I never experienced that in my life before. Never in my life. And whether you succeed or fail, I mean, or fail, succeed or fail, I mean, it's like, well, I'd rather try than have no ambition at all, you know. And actually feeling like you have a purpose. You know, it's not, I mean, I could probably list off 10 different factors of why that's important. I mean, not just motivation, but you feel like you got a purpose in your life. I mean, that's pretty darn big. That's the purpose of life, you know. And those things can affect, again, not just you, not just your psyche, your psychological sense. It doesn't, your physical sense of how you are, how you look, how you feel. It also affects everything around you. You know, how does your home look? How is your family doing? How are you treating them? Actually being conscious rather than letting everything drive you, and being more self-conscious about things. So after that, this is in December 2018. Around that time, I started feeling a small sense of humility for myself, because that's, even though I wasn't consciously reconstructing a reality or reconstructing my life in general, I was being more conscious about who I was at that moment. I mean, you can lie to yourself all day, and that's your decision. You can outrightly so say no to all your weaknesses and admit that you have zero weaknesses. But that's not a damn reality. Everyone has weaknesses. Everyone has downfalls. Everyone has strengths as well. Don't get me wrong. Everybody has their own strengths in their own areas of life. But I didn't want to be so arrogant that I didn't notice the weaknesses and felt a little sense of humility there. And so right next to that little input, I have a sheet, and it just says weaknesses on the top. And this was about the same time in 2018, December maybe even a little bit before that. I actually sat down and I wrote down a few weaknesses, and I haven't updated it since. But I did write it down, and I was trying to be honest with myself. And there's only two that I'll name off, as there's, you know, I left out a whole lot, but I started to learn those things over time, and I'm still nowhere near where I need to be, but there's always gonna be, again, the puzzle, you know. We always need to be working on something, so to feel ambition. So on the weaknesses part, the first one, it's all capitalized and it just says fear. And the next one says afraid that you're on a time limit. No, I'm 18 at the time, and I'm afraid that my life is on a short time limit, and I'm fearing about whatever it is that I was fearing about. And you know what? I don't blame myself for fearing, because I was afraid that I was on a time limit. And that was at the time, again, when it comes to the balance of the moment in the future, I've gone through my own personal life experiences where life really is on a darn time limit. And that reality struck me to my heart. and to the people around me and my family. So I've been there. I've known that t- that that if you just plan everything on the future, I mean, you could die tomorrow, and then what else is everything that you worked for, you know? And you distracted yourself from maybe more important things that you could have done, you know? So, experiencing something traumatic, I mean, I don't blame myself for being afraid that I was on a time limit because I was consciously thinking about that fear of the lack of balance in my life, of in the moments in the future. I was afraid because I didn't know the answer. I didn't know um, what the right ingredients were for that. And again, I don't blame myself because again, at about 18 years old, I mean, what are you supposed to know about that? Most of it is in the moment. You know, people going to parties and people making bad decisions. I mean, it's all in the moment kind of thing, and they just do it because we're young, you know. We don't know better whatsoever. But I admitted to this of feeling like I was on a time limit, and you know, obviously, if you're afraid, well, that's no good. And if you're fearing, well, that's no good. But the reality is that we all are on a time limit. I mean, I could say that. We're all on a time limit. I mean, every single person, we're all gonna die. Yet the time before that is quite unknown, so I don't blame myself for for being afraid, you know, of when something terrible could happen, or when that time would come. And I also wanted to break through. I didn't want to waste my life working at a crappy job so I could retire at whatever age, and then enjoy it then, because I mean, again, you could die tomorrow, and or you could die right before you retire or something, and then it's still gone. I mean, I wouldn't want to live a life full of regret there as well. You know, say you worked your whole life and until you retired, and then by the time you retire, you can't do all the fun things that you wanted to do because, well, you're quite a bit too old to do it, maybe, and that's respectively, you know. See that in all due respect. I mean, so there's a balance there. There's a balance of in the moment thinking, and then the future. But I think at least for myself, I mean, after that first semester, I was quite happy with it. The next following semester, that spring, was I totally went on my own leash there, and I wasn't a part of the the culture that the world is creating here in America. I wasn't really a part of it. I detached from all of that and started spending. I actually, you know, I couldn't wait to go to college so that I could meet new people. But then because I was still relying on other people for other things, you know, for whether it's reaction or for a good time. But actually, by the time the next semester came and all the snow was around, you know, I started spending time by myself. I became individualistic, and that was quite fulfilling. I mean, that was the answer to being afraid that I was on a limit, because yeah, I'm on a time limit and I don't know when I'm gonna go, but at least I can spend the time quite usefully by working on myself and preparing myself for what's to come. Because when I'm out doing just about nothing with other people, other than just strictly in the moment, then that's not it's not quite too much good that you get out of it for the future. I mean, maybe you'll know not to drink too much Jose Cuervo in the future, but I mean, again, that's not very that's not quite so important as compared to um, other factors in life. So yeah, that whole next spring semester I actually started spending by myself and growing on myself and taking a bit more responsibility for myself and being more conscious about who I wanted to be and then realizing how hard it would be to actually get there and if I want to get there then I'd better work pretty darn hard on my own time rather than going out and doing nonsense all the time, because it's not going to happen for you. It's going to happen if you do it, and that can take quite amount of time. I mean, life didn't say it was going to be easy. It's actually quite dreadful. Unless you get to the moment and learn skills as though like embracing suffering, for example. I mean, if you can do that, then man, you could probably do just about anything if you'd like to. But I also lacked quite a bit of adult skills. Well, do I say adult skills? Because there's quite a bit of adults that may not even understand it. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the perspective that I didn't understand any of these important skills like being humble, feeling humility, being so gracious and thankful and I didn't understand the bigger picture of many things, which again, you're young and you're all in the moment. Of course, I don't blame myself, but I mean, at some point, I'm just blessed, thankful that that day maybe have came as I grew up and went into college. So it didn't fall down a darn rabbit hole there. So yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna call it there. That was a good little talk and good ideas there. I'll probably make a part two in episode two. Um, and I think this was great. I just like to thank all of you for whoever it is for tuning in, and hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you get to learn about me, I suppose, but I'd like to learn about you as well, and like to hear what people have to say. So I'm gonna try to do this quite often, maybe twice a month or so, and toss it up on YouTube and see where it goes. But I'll also be doing my best to release some fun Horizon times as well. There's episode 1 that's up on the channel right now, and then I have episode 2 recorded. Hopefully, we'll get out there sometime, and then we'll work on number 3 and get that out, and then I'll do another part of this quite soon. But in the meantime, there is the music project that's been in the production process for again about maybe 2 years or so. So I'm very, very excited to get that rolling and steamboating and see if people enjoy it. So if this helped you, please drop a like and comment or subscribe, whatever it is. Do whatever floats your boat. But I really appreciate whoever watched out there. So hope you take care. Have a great day and thank you. Bye bye.